Thank you, Councillor Crease. Do we have any other speakers? Anybody online? Councillor Franlister.
Yeah. I have a quick question. Do you want me to ask my question separately, Gina?
How many have you got?
Three.
Yeah. Yes.
You could take them
they're all
in
very
turn.
different.
Right. If you could take them in turn, thank you.
Thank you. On page 42 and 43, it talks about the open risks, and I'm just intrigued as to how those risks were identified. Because for me, there seems to be other, perhaps greater risks in achieving that objective. So I was just wondering, how those three were derived at.
Chief Officer, do you want to respond to that? So if we look at the first one, the demand for specialist provision, this committee knows very well that we have seen a massive increase in the demand for appropriate provision for children with complex needs, learners who have a neurodiverse profile. And we were, at the time when the council plan targets were written, we were in the stage of developing a new strategy, a new capital strategy in terms of how we would respond to that. And I think that, the challenge is if we do not meet that rising demand, then obviously first and foremost it is the learners that suffer if we are not making appropriate provision for them to meet their needs. The risk to the local authority then is also increasing referrals to the tribunal, the independent tribunal. Fortunately, our referrals are relatively low as a local authority, but again, if we fail to meet that need, then obviously those referrals to the tribunal will increase. That brings then obviously reputational risk to the authority as well. In terms of the Welsh in education risk, that is a statutory duty on the council in terms of delivering those actions against the WESP targets. And Welsh governments have set significant targets for local authorities to increase the number of learners accessing their education through the medium of Welsh. We know we've got a falling pupil demography anyway, so it's encouraging to see that the development of our engagement around the Welsh language and the delivery of our brand new school facility is really encouraging parents, perhaps not from a Welsh speaking background, to consider that a Welsh medium education is appropriate for their learners. The ultimate sanction is that if Welsh Government do not perceive that the local authority is making sufficient progress around those targets, and they are very challenging targets for the local authority, then they will send in the regulator to review that specifically. So that's why that was identified as a risk. And again, the risk around the sustainable learning communities, and I don't know whether Jenny would want to comment on this one as well. Obviously, the major risk around delivering our programme of school modernisation is that sometimes our factors as well beyond our control. So as we know, we can draw down significant funding from Welsh Government, but then there also has to be a council contribution to that investment. We know there's been huge pressures around inflation within the construction sector, and a supply and availability of materials, which can sometimes delay projects and therefore increase cost. And as you know, there is also the challenge that we have a very small school modernisation team, and our capacity to manage, a number of projects simultaneously, is quite limited. Jen, is there anything you would want to add to that if you don't think that perhaps I've captured that well enough?
Thanks, Claire. I think just to note, we've got that risk score down to 3, because we've been managing the risks through our programme management, and it was specifically around a particular project that it had gone into the corporate risk register, but all the factors that Claire's mentioned are real and live, and we're monitoring that as we move through the programme. So,
yeah, Jen. I mean, obviously the risk score around the specialist provision, still is high, but Cabinet have recently approved that capital investment strategy. So we are starting to work through that phased programme. So hopefully over time, what we will see is that risk score come down. But obviously we do go through a process of regular review. So that was captured at that point in time.
This isn't my second question, but to come
back.
Sorry,
second question.
Well, this is now an extra one, if that's okay, Gina. I was just wondering, I agree with what you've that explanation. Thank you. I was just wondering why, I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, but why managing deficit budgets in schools doesn't feature as a risk under this, because obviously the level of deficit will have an impact on successful learning and achievement. So I just wondered why it wasn't there, really. Shall I go on? Or?
Chief Officer, do you want to answer that? So the risk around school budgets actually is clearly referenced in the education and youth portfolio, and actually was escalated to the corporate risk register. So it's not that it isn't captured; it has already been captured. Thank you.